Welcome friends to the 2024 Toyota Supra 3-liter Premium review. Let's just get right into the drive because the only new thing we have for 2024 is the addition of a 45th anniversary model. It's going to be limited to 900 units. It's going to cost a little over $65,000, but it is available in that special orange color. So if you're into that, you can look out for it. But let's go ahead and let's get into my driving impressions because I do love driving this car. I'm really impressed with the way Toyota has tuned this vehicle's chassis, steering, suspension, all of that. We only have two modes here with the Supra, normal and sport, and I love that. I love the simplicity. We don't need 20 different modes here, a eco, a comfort, a sport plus. We don't need any of that. Normal and sport. So you just press the button, it immediately engages, and you notice that the engine gets louder in sport mode. So I'm not sure exactly how much of it is like the fake engine noise being pumped in through the speakers and all that stuff. I don't know, but regardless, I'll get to the engine and my thoughts on that a little bit later. The main reason why I mentioned the two modes is because we also have adaptive dampers with the Supra, but no matter which mode I put it into, normal, sport, doesn't matter, it rides the same. We'll just switch back into normal for a brief moment. The ride quality is definitely on the stiffer side, like you would expect out of a sports car, but this is not unbearable in any way. I appreciate what they've been able to do here. So all of the imperfections and the bumps, it does get translated into the cabin, and you're aware of the terrain that you are driving over. So if there's dips in the road, you are going to experience those dips, but at no point does this vehicle go over a bump and end up in the next lane. None of that stuff. The vehicle remains planted and secure over all pavement types. The Supra never does anything weird, right? Like this car is not tramlining, it's not following the imperfections of the road. And with the 3-liter inline-6 models, you do get 19-inch forged wheels. With the 4-cylinder model, you get the 18-inch cast wheels. And all these wheels are going to be wrapped in 255 wide tires in the front, 275s in the back. I actually have the traction control on right now. If you want this thing to get sideways, you definitely have to turn traction control off and stability control off. With all this stuff on, this is a very secure and planted feeling sports sedan. You have a lot of confidence. This vehicle is not really going to step out on you with all the nannies turned on, but with it turned off, you can definitely slide around and hoon around in this car. And even with everything off, you don't have to really worry because this vehicle works with you and not against you, right? Put this back into sport, and I will turn off the traction control here. So you press the traction control off button once, traction turns on, but afterwards you need to hold on to that same button for about 10 seconds for VSC to turn off. Once you have traction and stability turned off, you can swap between normal and sport, and the traction and all that will remain turned off. If you want to play with the paddles, you can, but shift it into the manual mode so you can hang on to the gears. Otherwise, it will auto upshift for you. As one would expect, speed is not an issue with this 3-liter inline-6. We have here 382 horsepower and 368 pounds-feet of torque. Does 0 to 60 in about 3.9 seconds. Again, speed and performance, you are not going to have any issues with this. You're reaching triple-digit speeds in no time, and even when you are doing those triple-digit plus speeds, this car feels very stable. Okay, like out on the highway, this thing feels rock solid, which is great. Again, the confidence that you have behind the wheel is brilliant. And like I mentioned before, this car works with you and not against you. Even with all the traction control stuff off in sport mode, if you want to hoon around in this car, you have to initiate the hooning. Put it back into auto for right now. This car is only going to step out its rear end if you punch the throttle. The only time this car is going to give you like that nervous sensation if it's raining outside and you're driving it harder. At that point, it can feel a little bit more fidgety and more on edge. But when it's dry out, you are in complete control of this car, whether you have the traction on or off. You decide how crazy you want this car to behave. Brakes feel nice and firm. See, like, you can easily bring this car back when you have this thing sideways. It's not even an issue. So controllable, so predictable. And here's the thing, driving this car, its chassis, its handling, honestly, it really speaks to you, this vehicle. A lot of people mock and scoff this thing, saying that it's just a BMW with a Toyota badge on it. Yes, this is based upon the Z4. We know this already. This thing has been out for like 5 years now. But it's not that simple, because Toyota is the one that tuned and tweaked this vehicle, its suspension, its chassis, the steering. So because of that, there's none of the weirdness that you get with a lot of modern day BMWs. I mean, obviously, there's nuances between every BMW. They all drive a little bit different. The best way I can describe many BMW M products is go to Best Buy or wherever and pick up one of those Logitech sim racing steering wheels, play some Assetto Corsa, and that's exactly what a modern day BMW M product feels like. That overly stiff and heavy steering for no apparent reason. Here with the Supra, this steering rack feels great, very natural. It doesn't even change much whether you put it into sport or in normal. It's just perfectly weighted all of the time. And this car absolutely just dances through the corners. The communication that you get through this vehicle, I feel like actually outdoes the engine. So, you know, everyone praises and worships the B58 engine. Well, in my opinion, I think the handling of this, it's what sets this car apart, not necessarily the engine. And I said this in another video. I think it was the Acura TLX Type S video. I said that the B58 engine has absolutely no character, and I absolutely still stand by that 100%. A lot of these turbo engines are like this. You know, it's not just the B58, it's also the Audi 4-cylinders, 6 cylinders. Most of them lack character. Like, okay, check this out. It sounds like my handheld vacuum cleaner that I use at home. Like, there's nothing exciting about this. I'll play a few clips of engines and vehicles that actually have some character. Okay, now you come and you compare that to this. People always misinterpret my words. At no point did I say that this is not an efficient engine. I never said that this is not getting the job done. This car is blisteringly fast, okay? This engine and its 8-speed automatic ZF transmission is brilliant for speed and performance. It's doing the job. I never said it's not capable or it's not fast. I never said those things. I just said it just sounds like a generic vacuum cleaner, right? It sounds like every other turbo engine out there. I mean, how can you possibly say that this has more character than my 5-liter V8 LC500 Lexus? That is preposterous. But in terms of capability and speed, forget the 6-cylinder. The 4-cylinder version of the Supra would absolutely walk my 5-liter V8 Lexus. Speed and performance is not the issue. I'm talking about the sound and the character. Now, obviously, it's not everyone that was trying to give me grief. It's just a few people, you know. There's really only 2 types of people that give me grief like that. The people who have already financed I don't know, like a BMW or whatever at 10 or 15% interest, and they get really pissy with me when I'm critical of the car that they own. So there's that group of people, and there's also the other group that fantasizes about these vehicles, and they have a certain picture in their mind on how these vehicles feel like. And when I go against their fantasy, they also get upset at me. So I'm giving you the truth. Why? Because these things are like $60,000. Interest rates are through the roof. And I want you to understand exactly what you are getting for your money. And what are you getting? You're getting a very fast car here. There's no question about that. And you're also getting a vehicle with a masterful chassis that dances around the corners. I mean, it is brilliant how well this thing does in the turns and how easy it is for you to hoon it and to bring it right back. I mean, it's phenomenal. And you're also getting a car with amazing fuel economy. The 6-cylinder is rated to get 23 in the city, 31 out on the highway, but you can meet and even exceed those numbers if you drive this car more mellow. So understand the words that I'm trying to say here. On paper, this B58, this car, it's amazing, okay? Good power, good 0 to 60, amazing fuel economy. I mean, it's doing everything well on paper. And by the way, yes, you do have to use premium fuel, of course, but the fact that the fuel economy numbers are this good, I don't think it matters that you have to use premium fuel. But yeah, all that is great, but compared to a naturally aspirated engine like from Lexus, from Ford, or even the Chevrolet Camaro 6.2 liter V8 with the NPP exhaust, that sounds incredible. The other thing a lot of people like to mention is how tunable this engine is, right? How much power you can get out of this, and you can add more character to it if you wanted to. I'm talking about how these vehicles perform stock from the factory, okay? That's really all I care about. That's the other thing about the car enthusiast that I don't quite understand. You're willing to do tunes and all of these other things and invest all of this extra money into the vehicle, all to void your warranty. So everyone wants a reliable car, but you'll also spend money to void your warranty all at the same time. It doesn't really make much sense to me. Now, if you go with a BMW product, you are able to tune, add intakes and exhaust systems provided to you by Dine-In. There are certain Dine-In authorized BMW dealerships where you can add those parts in. You can get more power out of the vehicle while maintaining your factory warranty. This is a Toyota product, not a BMW. I'm not so sure you can add in all those Dine-In components and still keep your warranty. And that's something else I wanted to bring up. Because this is a Supra with pretty much all BMW components underneath, you know, engine, transmission, all of that, some owners have said that it's difficult to have these vehicles serviced at a Toyota dealership. Their local Toyota store, the mechanics that work there simply don't know how to really work on these vehicles when problems arise because it's technically a BMW. So if you're interested in this car, right, it is a great car. I do love driving it, as I mentioned multiple times. You will have to call ahead to your Toyota dealership and ask if they can really work on these vehicles confidently, get parts for it in a reasonable amount of time, or check the reviews or check on some forums. Do what you have to do, but that's really one of the main drawbacks with the Supra. You might also have to find like a independent tech who's good at working on BMWs, who's ASA certified, and they can also do warranty work. You might have to have someone like that in your corner as well if you're going to buy a car like this. So just things to keep in mind. But wrapping up this drive, I do love driving this car despite this being on the firmer side. And there's even some refined aspects to this car. Like, there's not too much wind noise here. You just have a lot more road noise coming through. So that's a bit of a con, but surprisingly, not too much wind noise. And weirdly, despite how communicative this car is, like it's translating, bumps, you're getting feedback through the steering wheel, through the chassis and all of that. It's a very communicative car in that sense. However, the one thing this car is not communicating is the speed that you are traveling at. You have to be doing 10, 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit to feel like you're even moving in this car. So it's very easy to get speeding tickets with the Supra. And the only other real con driving this car is going to be the blind spots that you experience. So it's very difficult to see behind you with the B pillars, the rear hatchback, and it's glass. It's a little bit narrow, so you can't really see much out there. This whole A pillar plus the side mirror, it's a little difficult to see around this as well. But placing this car out on the road, that's not an issue. It's not that large by any means, right? It's only like 173 inches long total. Busting U-turns is easy. Fitting this inside of a garage, that's not a problem. So it's just typical sports car stuff. I mean, most vehicles like this are difficult to see out of. And the ground clearance on this vehicle, it's 4.5 inches, so might have to watch out for certain speed bumps. But regardless, I think you get the point with the Supra. Let's go ahead and let's transition into the interior segment now. All right, now that we are stopped, let's quickly talk about this interior space. So for 2024, we have this new beautiful hazelnut brown interior color for the seats and for portions of the steering wheel and for the center armrest area. This looks great and it complements this blue paint job really well. And this blue paint job is an optional color that costs some money. But regardless, if you want to get this hazelnut interior color, you do have to step up to the 3-liter premium model like you see here. Personally though, I would definitely go for this premium model because you get the 12-speaker 500-watt JBL sound system as standard, and this is a very good sounding audio system. I do appreciate it. The regular Supras get like a 10-speaker 200-something watt unit. That's okay, but this is definitely a step up. You have good clarity and bass here with the JBL, so I definitely need this. You also get a wireless charging pad with the premium model, and you do not get this with the other two. But get this, even with a premium model Supra, you have to pay an additional $1,100 to get the blind spot monitoring and the rear cross traffic alert. That is absolutely absurd. This is already a freaking $60,000 vehicle, and they're still taxing you to get the blind spot monitoring and the rear cross traffic alert. That should come standard with all of these Supras. And those are pretty much the only two safety features that truly matter. They're the most useful ones anyway, so I don't like that they make you pay up for it. But yes, in general, this is that BMW interior space, but this is that previous generation BMW interior. So I personally really like this. You have the physical buttons and switches for your HVAC. You have heated seats here in the front. You do get the 8.8-inch touchscreen as standard, but when you move up to these more premium models or these optional packages, like if you got the 4-cylinder or the regular 6-cylinder, you can pay like an additional $3,000 to get the JBL audio system and a lot of other premium features that we have here. But you have to pay $3,000. At that point, you might as well just step up all the way and get this premium Supra, and that's what I'm saying. So anyway, 8.8-inch infotainment screen. It's that previous BMW iDrive setup. It works great. It's a touchscreen, but you can also use the rotary knob if you want to. It reacts quickly. You do have wireless Apple CarPlay, but there is no Android Auto with this. At least there was no mention of it, so something to keep in mind. I do have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and it does fit perfectly in the wireless charging pad, so that's good. You have a digital gauge cluster here, but with this Supra, I mean, the digital gauge cluster, it doesn't really even do anything. It's set to look exactly like this pretty much all of the time. And if you want to look at your miles per gallon, your tire pressure, and all of those things, you have to look at it from the infotainment screen and not from the gauge cluster. So that's one thing. I wish you could actually do more with the digital gauge cluster. But regardless, we have one touch up and down windows for both of these windows here. It's not double pane or anything, but as I mentioned in the driving segment, you don't really have any real wind noise. You just get a lot of tire noise and road noise. I didn't talk about this during the driving segment, but we do have here the previous generation Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires. So it's not the Pilot 4 or the Pilot 5. Personally, if you swap these tires out for some Continental, either all season, like performance all season, like the Extreme Contacts, or if you get the Extreme Contact summer tire, I feel like that would give the Supra a smoother driving experience and a quieter one as well. Yes, these tires are producing some noise, but also it's kicking up rocks while you're driving it. So that's definitely not the most refined thing. That's why for street driving, honestly, just regular performance-oriented all-season tires is all you really need, unless you live in like California where it's 100 degrees all the time to make use of true summer tires. But yeah, regardless, Continental is my tire of choice. I find them to be smooth and they do really well in the wet as well. Anyway, moving on from that, back to the interior. I like the carbon fiber that they have in the middle, but we also have this piano black plastic surrounding the HVAC and on the door panels. So just keep a microfiber cloth on you. We do have two cup holders here, but there is no armrest that you can lift open to store things. There's kind of a tray in the back, and that's about it. The door pockets are pretty useless. And this next con is going to be, typical sports car stuff. It's a little bit more difficult to get in and out of this vehicle. I'm also 5'11". I have the seat all the way down, and I don't really have that much more headroom here. So if you're super tall, this might not work out for you. The glove box is not that large, so kind of a restricted and not a super practical interior space. That is a bit unfortunate. Some more cubby spaces would go a long way, but I will say this, the seats are super comfortable. That's really helping out with the slightly stiffer ride quality of this car. You can really tolerate it because we have these amazing seats that not only keep you in place, but you also have good lumbar support, and you can sit in these genuinely for a long time. So I do like the seats. And it's cool that this car is a hatchback, so that adds some practicality back into this vehicle. We don't have a spare tire, you just have a tire fixing kit, but whatever. I do like the hatch. It's very similar to the Jaguar F-Type, so that's the other sports car with a hatch like this. And yeah, that's really everything for the interior space. It's solid, there's nothing creaking or rattling in here. Everything is well put together, functional, works great, ergonomic. It just needs a few more cubby spaces. And another thing I didn't talk about in the driving segment was the manual transmission. I didn't bother to mention because I never tried it. We have here the 8-speed ZF with the typical BMW shifter, but this shifter works nice. It's not a big deal. Put it into reverse. You do not have a 360 camera, just a regular backup camera with some sensors. If the manual is good, go for it. But if it's not, then I would just stick with the 8-speed ZF. I don't want some half-baked manual transmission. That's not enjoyable to me. I really need a good, crispy, clean shifting manual for it to be exciting and fun for me. I don't want just some clapped out manual transmission with a rubbery gearbox and with a ambiguous clutch pedal. I don't want that. That's not fun to me. But personally, this car is such a rocket out on the road that the 8-speed ZF really suits this engine and just how fast it is. Personally, I would be more interested in the manual if they offered it with the 4-cylinder. I feel like that would make more sense because this car weighs about 3,400 pounds. The manual doesn't save that much weight, but they're saying that the 4-cylinder weighs approximately 200 pounds less than the 6-cylinder. So that 4-cylinder plus the manual, that would make a lot more sense. But again, it needs to be a good manual. And when I mean good manual, some of my more favorite ones, it's the 6-speed Tremec, the Mazda Miata manual transmission, the Honda Acura manual, that's good. But really with these cars, you just pick what's on the lot and you buy it, because even if there is a manual transmission out there, some stupid Toyota dealership is going to charge $90,000 for it and they're not even going to let you test drive it. So it's kind of irrelevant. I need to get a manual transmission Supra as a press car to test it out and to report to you. But for right now, let's go ahead and let's conclude this review. All right, concluding thoughts on the 2024 Supra, the 3-liter premium model. I'm a huge fan of driving this car. The chassis and the handling is absolutely the highlight here. The way this car communicates with you, it is brilliant. The engine and transmission, of course, that works great. It's getting the job done, no problems. But does it have character? Not really, at least in its stock form, compared to vehicles that I like. You know, I gave you a couple of sound clips in the driving segment. This is obviously not like that. Now, can you tune it? Can you add an exhaust? Can you add an intake? Of course you can, at the expense of your warranty. I'm not sure if you can add those BMW dine-in tunes and exhaust systems on here while maintaining your warranty, because this is a Toyota at the end of the day. Servicing this Supra at a Toyota dealership in its stock form could already pose a challenge. Anyway, this is good. This is a natural feeling driving experience. It's not like a lot of those BMWs that have over boosted steering racks, overly stiff suspensions, and a brake pedal that makes you feel like you're gonna shoot through the front windshield. There's nothing like that going on here. This is all normal, confidence inspiring on day-to-day roads when you're going over bumps. Sure, it can be a little stiff, but at no point does it feel like this car is getting away from you, or it feels like the vehicle is going to shift into another lane just because it went over a subtle bump. No, this car always feels solid, secure, and it always feels like it's on your side and you know exactly what the car is doing at all times. At $60,000, there's a lot of competition, both on the cheaper end, and also if you just pay slightly more, there's other amazing vehicles that you can get as well. So on the low end, vehicles that I'm super high on is the LT1 Camaro, of course. 2024 is going to be the last model year of the Camaro, but for 40 G's to get a 6.2 liter V8 with a manual or with the 10-speed automatic, that's amazing. That's amazing value for money, and it also drives great as well. I heard that Ford is selling like an 800 horsepower supercharged 5-liter V8 Mustang for about $50K or $60,000 with some options. Something else to look into. On the higher end, you pay like 70 G's, you can buy yourself a 1LT Corvette. And from BMW, you can get a M2 for around $66,000 and have actually seen some discounts on those, about 4% off MSRP. So you're getting a true BMW that you can service at a BMW dealership, and it comes with 3 years of complimentary service, whereas a Supra comes with 2 years of free maintenance. But yeah, the point is you have a lot of options. Let me know in the comment section which vehicle you would choose. And if you currently own a Supra, let us know how you like it, and let us know if you were able to get a good deal on it, because from what I've seen, you can pretty much only buy these things at sticker. That's going to be your best case scenario. Even the largest Toyota broker out there, his name is Jim, he told me that his dealerships are offering these things at sticker price. Yeah, it's sad that you can't get any real discounts on this, but it is what it is. Hopefully you appreciated this review and my honesty, because I am a real car enthusiast. I actually owned a lot of these vehicles, right? I've personally had a B58 BMW 440i. I've also had the LC500, the IS350, a bunch of Acuras, the Challenger Scat Pack with the 6-speed manual, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I can't even think off the top of my head. And this is obviously something I do. I drive and test vehicles, so I've clearly been around the block, and I've driven vehicles, not just new ones, but also from the past as well. Cars with some real character, you know, the old school BMW M cars, old school AMGs from the 90s and early 2000s. Tried a variety of Corvettes, from the old ones to the new ones. Like, I've driven a spectrum of vehicles from old to new and from pretty much every different manufacturer. And that's where my thoughts and opinions come from, not just from some fantasy that I have in my head or from some spec sheets that I read. No, this is from my personal experiences and thoughts. And older vehicles tend to communicate with you more than these new ones. They have more raw feeling engines and exhaust notes, and cars with that old soul tend to be the most fun to own, like my LC500 Lexus. Despite that being a new car, it had that old school soul. I love cars that go beyond their specs. When it comes to the Supra, the driving dynamics certainly exceed the specs, and I love the way this thing handles, feels, and dances around corners. So if you found value, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and goodbye.